and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Pentatonic Scale. If you've been playing guitar for any length of time, learned any scales, I'm pretty sure you've come across the pentatonic, specifically the Minor Pentatonic Scale. Very useful, very versatile. You can use it in all sorts of different musical styles. And for all, it's one of the first scales you learn. When you look at getting into music theory, you can apply it in lots of different ways, particularly if you get into modes. Pentatonic scales are really useful in a modal context. But anyway, talking about the pentatonic scale, and because it's such a useful scale, I want to look at different ways you can play it and kind of maximise your use of it. Think about the minor pentatonic first. You normally have to start with a major scale, but let's start with the minor pentatonic because that's most likely the first scale you ever learned on guitar, and you'll be familiar with this shape. So if we're playing in the key of G, so G minor pentatonic. Yes, that's a scale I'm sure that you recognise, and that scale box will be one that's familiar to you. But the problem with, if you get locked into just playing that scale box, is if you want to play, say, high, so we're playing in the key of G, so we're around this part of the neck. If you want to move up, so your next option is going to be playing up here. But it means if you want to move between lower notes and high notes, you've got a big jump. So what this video is about is finding these other shapes for the scale. So starting with this scale box, what we can do is take the higher note of each pair. So we've got two notes on each string, so we'll just look at the higher note on each string in the box pattern and use that as the lower note in the box pattern moving up the neck. So in that first shape we've got these notes, and we'll use those as the lower notes in the box pattern for same notes. Just play it a bit further up the neck, we get a shape that looks like this. And again we can take the higher notes from that box shape and use those lower notes for another box shape, and we get something that looks like this. And for the next shape, again we'll take the higher note off each string for that box pattern, and we'll get something that looks like this. And higher note from that box is the lower note for another box. We get this. And if we take the highest note from that scale box and use that as the starting point for another scale box, we're basically back where we started. To recap that then, let's take PhatPhish, let's fire that up and dial in a G minor pentatonic scale. And here we can see the notes of G minor pentatonic right the way across the fingerboard. And let's just highlight in some of those scale boxes that we're playing. So this is the first box that we started with, the one that's probably most familiar to you, with the root note being played on the E string with the first finger. And then we went up to this scale shape, and this one, and this one, and this one. And if we repeat the exercise, we basically end up with the same shape that we started with, but a whole octave higher. So what's the reason for learning all these different boxes, these 5 different ways of playing the pentatonic scale? Well, the reason is to give you freedom of movement around the neck. So you don't just get stuck in playing notes just out of that one box. If you can think about the higher notes of one box as being the lower notes of another box, it gives you some frame of reference to be able to move the shape up and play notes higher up the neck, or the inverse if you want to work down over and play a lower note. So rather than just being stuck into this in this one box, you can start and move around. Yeah, so 5 different ways of playing the minor pentatonic. Get your fingers familiar with playing all of those and get used to where the notes fall on the neck. The way I usually suggest people learn scales is initially just commit those scale boxes to muscle memory. So get a visual reference, whether that's PhatPhish, you can hide or show notes on the fingerboard, so you can just kind of just visualize just the box that you're interested in, and then just spend a bit of time just really just running up and down the scale. And do that for each box. And so on. Go through all 5 shapes, ascending and descending. And basically, that just gets your fingers used to playing those shapes, because all the licks that you play out of those scale boxes, you kind of want your fingers pre-programmed to recognise the movement between the notes. And then set yourself a task perhaps of improvising, but constrain yourself just to one box. So set yourself a backing track away, or play a chord sequence on a looper pedal, and rather than just playing over it using the shape that I know, pick a different shape and try and improvise a solo. Now remember that the notes that you're playing, like the lowest note in the box, might not be the root note anymore, so it won't have perhaps as much significance in the key. So you'll need to experiment a little bit and get used to like the arrangement of the notes within the box. For all its notes are the same scale, that you're kind of coming at them in a different sequence, a different order. But play an improvisation or something just using that one box, then improvise again just using another box, and so on until you're proficient at being able to play licks and so on, just using one box, but not the box that you're used to, not that old familiar root note with the first finger box. And once you've kind of mastered the different pieces, you can kind of put them together into one whole, so you can start to move around like I was doing before there, starting off in one box but then moving up the neck, transitioning from one box to another. And here we're talking about a minor pentatonic. We started with G minor pentatonic, but don't forget that we've got 5 shapes of the minor pentatonic. You could also think about, actually this is the shape that you're starting from, and we're actually looking at 5 different shapes of the major pentatonic, but you just move those around the fingerboard. So the pentatonic scale, really important, really vital part of your scale vocabulary, used in so many different styles, and like I said before, when you get into modes, it's a very useful scale when you start using it in a modal context. So spend a bit of time getting familiar with those shapes and practicing them and incorporating them into your playing. It'll give you so much more freedom of movement around the neck, and help to unlock your creativity when you're playing lead lines and soloing and improvising and whatnot. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click like. If you really enjoyed it, please click subscribe, also down there, and you'll be notified of any other videos that I upload onto the channel. If you've got a suggestion for a future video, any questions you want to ask me about music theory, guitar playing, guitar equipment, anything like that, and if you go here, there's a form you can fill in, and that'll come through directly to me, and I'll try and address your question as a subject of a future video. You can leave comments down below, but to be honest, YouTube doesn't always let me know when people have been posting comments on videos, so sometimes questions go unseen. That form's a much better way to get in touch with me. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.